Oh, hello once again. I'm Keith Haywood, and thank you for joining me for another midweek message on behalf of St Anne's Church, Chasetown, for Wednesday, the 6th of October, 2021. I don't know about you, but I find it quite disconcerting that every time I tune in the TV or the radio to the news channel, or pick up a newspaper, there's always something that causes me sadness, concern, or even distress. Of course, this is nothing new, because it's been like that for decades, hasn't it? But it seems to me that there are times when things seem to escalate to a point of despair. Take just the last week or so, for instance. We've seen queues at petrol stations with the army being deployed this week to help out. More demonstrations over climate change as ports, airports and motorways are blocked and disrupted by protesters. The end of the furlough scheme, leaving almost 1 million people in limbo over whether their jobs are safe or not. Energy companies going out of business, creating not only redundancies, but with the warning to everyone of impending price increases this winter. Cuts in the social benefits of some of the poorest in our society. The Taliban takeover in Afghanistan as foreign troops are withdrawn. Continued violence on our streets as 4 people are injured following a hammer attack in London. Anti-vaccine protesters outside schools, with threats even being made to staff members. Numbers of coronavirus infection rates still soaring, with well over 30,000 casualties each day in the UK alone. Meanwhile, the volcano on La Palma still rages on after its eruption over 2 weeks ago, making thousands homeless, and how we've all been shocked at the revealed evidence in the conviction of the murderer of Sarah Everard. It's quite depressing sometimes, isn't it? Need I go on? Reaction to what we hear in the news will of course vary, whether that be in displaying anger, concern, despair, a call for vengeance and fair play, perhaps contributing financially to a relief fund, or some form of action like lobbying our MP, or a physical protest. Some will seek someone to blame for everything that goes on, whilst others may even shrug their shoulders and say, well, it doesn't really affect me, so I'm not really bothered. And I wonder whether you've ever asked the question, where's God in all this? And is it a lack of faith or trust to ask such a question? Well, I confess it's certainly a question that I've grappled with many times throughout my life. Just where is God when disaster strikes? Sadly, the conclusion for many is that because of what happens, God either isn't bothered about us or he isn't there at all. But I actually find it a helpful question to ask, because the more I wrestle with it, the more my faith is strengthened. If we really want to know the answer to such a question, then we need look no further than the pages of our Bible. The Bible is full of people of faith who ask similar questions or question God about his motives, as they too struggled with setbacks and doubts. Well-known characters like Moses and Abraham, Gideon, Jeremiah, Jonah, Paul, to name but a few. Many of the Psalms also question God's presence, but each time they're given the assurance of God's presence and protection. A few days ago, whilst pondering afresh on this very question, I came across 6 very helpful Bible promises to hold on to, no matter what's happening in the world or in our lives. Allow me to share them with you. The first one is from Isaiah chapter 41 and verse 10. God is with you. Don't be afraid, he says, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. The second from Psalm 46 and verse 1. God will strengthen you. God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. The next one from Isaiah chapter 41 and verse 13. God will help you. For I hold you by your right hand, I, the Lord your God. And I say to you, don't be afraid. I am here to help you. Number 4, from Psalm 63 and verse 8. God will hold you. I cling to you. Your strong right hand holds me securely. The 5th one, God will give you wisdom, from James chapter 1 and verse 5. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. And the 6th one from the book of Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 23, telling us that God can be trusted. Let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep his promise. My prayer this week for you and for me is that in our troubles, doubts, and times of despair, we may hold firm to the promises of God and find his presence, peace, and strength to keep trusting in him. Amen.